Hey fam, welcome back to Coffee, Kids, and Clarity. I'm your host, Dawn Kralovich, where we talk about real life, real humans, real emotions, and 99% of the time, somebody's yelling mom in the background. Today's episode is very near and dear to my heart. We are going to be talking about grief. I know this for many people can be very taboo, it can be very heavy, but I wanted to lend my personal and professional experience here to see if I can help in any way. Because I think it's important because we're all people. Grief does not discriminate. At some point, everyone will experience this. So I'm really glad you're here today. I just want to say that first and foremost. And again, this is so close and personal to my heart. And I just, before we go into this and any further, right, grab your tissues if need be. If I get emotional, so be it, because that's what grief can do. And if you are watching this while you're holding a very fresh loss, a quiet loss, a complicated loss, a tragic loss, I just want you to know that I see you. That I see you. Okay? I can't start crying. We just started. So I just want to take a deep breath. And I want you to take a deep breath so you can be here with me as well. I come to this conversation wearing many, many hats. As a bedside nurse for many years, especially, I did intensive care. I did ER and trauma. I have held many, many of hands of people who have passed on. And it's something I experienced on a personal level at a very early age. I very much remember my pop, passing when I was 4.5 years old from lymphoma. That was my first experience with death. And for me, I talk about grief because I also want to lend this in the sense of grief is not just loss of a person. That's the main part of it. But grief is just loss at its core. And we'll touch on that a little bit. But, another very close, near and dear to me, it's something... When I started the podcast, when I introduced myself and who I was, a little bit about it, but I lost the fiance and the father of my 2 children, Kevin. It'll be 9 years ago on February 28th. He was a police officer and he was killed in a car accident while on duty. So when I sit here and tell you that I have experienced a very personal, tragic loss, I mean that with my whole being. And I'm going to be real vulnerable today. And really transparent because it matters, because I'm human too. And we're all going to experience this. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my personal story and then gonna go from there. So if you need a break, if you need to pause, I'm probably going to pause a handful of times to take a sip of water, to get a tissue. You do whatever you need to do because you can. Okay. So my personal story, yes, I saw Kevin. He was 26 years old. It was something that I remember vividly, but don't. And I'm going to explain. So what I have learned through that tragic loss is that there's no reference to time. I do not really remember 6 months prior to his passing. And I don't really remember much in regards to time just kind of got lost up to about 9 to 10 months after his passing. I have 3 children at the time. My oldest was 8.5. Our 2 children were 3.5 and 21 months old. So our youngest was 21 months old, our son. So the little ones don't remember as much, my son especially, but the older 2, and then especially my oldest, his stepdaughter, who I want to make very clear, raised as and thought of her as his absolute own child. So I'm very grateful for that. We talk about Kevin a lot, very open in my house. My husband is an amazing man. We now have 2 more kids, 5 kids together. He has allowed this space of grieving for myself and my children very openly and lovingly. I cannot thank him enough for his support. So shout out to my husband, Joe. I love you so much. And that matters. It matters when you're going through grief. You need that support. because you can't feel boxed in here, right? You can't feel like it has to be fixed. You can't feel forced, rushed. Again, there's no time expectancy here, right? I really want to remove a time frame as to what it's supposed to look like for you. Because you know what we say here, it's got to make sense for you. It doesn't have to make sense for me. It has to make sense for you. It has to match you, right? Of course, there's commonalities through loss, and I very much understand that, but how we move through grief is completely personal. It is completely personal. Like I said, his service was extremely public because he was a police officer. His funeral was hours long. And I want to thank everybody. If you see this, and I never got a chance to thank you, but thank you so much for showing your love for him. People that he only knew for 20 minutes stopped just to pay their respects. So, and I stayed there the whole time for that reason. I have so much respect and love for people that did that, took the time out of their day just to do that in honoring him and showing up for me and my kids and his mother and our family and all the things that we went through. So thank you for that. But what I've learned the most through this is that it doesn't go away. And I don't want this episode to make it heavier. I just want it to be very real. I want it to be tangible for people. I want it to be something that you can play this episode over and over as much as you need to hear whatever gain from it, because maybe each time you hear it, you might get something different out of it. And I think that's important. It's been 9 years. So of course I'm going to get emotional, but there's parts of his passing I can reflect on and think about, but it was very vivid for me. I remember every single aspect visually from his passing, from the moment I found out he passed at 6:04 in the morning. And I'm just going to shout out to those people, you know who you are, who unfortunately had to tell me that information. And I love you so much for being as supportive and wonderful in those moments as you could have been. To his funeral service, and then the following weeks after that, and what that felt like. There's a point in grief where you do feel completely alone, where you lonely, where you are trying to figure out what the next thing is that you're supposed to be doing. And I'm going to tell you right now, you woke up. That's good enough. Okay. If you are in a very fresh season or loss, like a very fresh part of grief, if somebody that you loved has just recently passed, it is okay for you just to wake up and just be there. Okay. Because grief doesn't come with a pamphlet. It doesn't come with a guide. Again, it doesn't discriminate. You never know what stage is going to hit. I went through stages of anger, through guilt, through sadness, through you name it. And I didn't know what day it was sometimes. I just knew I was there and I was moving through it, and I had very young children. So for me personally, I was very open and honest with my kids, but I had to let them know that even though I'm moving through this, that I'm still available to them. Maybe not as much as I could have wanted to be, but that I was still there, and that understanding that they were moving through their own stuff too, and what that looked like. For me, that was a lot of trauma therapy for like about 4 or 5 months. There was a point in my grief where I'm not proud of, where I maybe drank a little too much before bed, where I might have shut some people out I shouldn't have. And I'm not judging myself for that at all. And I really want you to hold on to that. I would love for this moment, if you are sitting here with me and you are listening to this, can you please do me a huge favor? Can you please love yourself through this with the utmost compassion, respect, and grace? Can you do that for me? There's no judgment here. We're not coloring in the lines. It's not needed. It's not needed. Like I said, waking up is perfectly fine. And then each day you get to dictate what this looks like, how you're going to manage it, right? And please reach out. Okay. I don't think anybody should sit in this alone. I'm not here to like promote my business or gloat, but again, I give a free hour because I intentionally love you and I want people to have that. If you just need me to listen, if you just want somebody to talk about, if you just want to honor your person, right? Please reach out. I really mean that. Because people did that for me and it meant everything to me just to have that space to honor Kevin, to talk about it, just what I was going through. All the personal things that you move through, especially with me, it was my partner. And there's a lot to that. So again, we're just scratching the surface a little bit here. But, again, kind of moving forward, just that's where I land. If you have any questions, concerns here, my information will be listed. Just let me know. And I have learned that grief, again, is not just loss of a loved one. I feel like that is a top tier loss. I think we can all agree on that. But what I've learned is just, again, it's loss at its core. I mean, I've also, I've been divorced. There was a loss there. Losing a pet, losing a job, losing out on anything. Like, I think a lot of times there is a stigma attached to this. And I'm here to tell you, it is whatever you deem it to be. Nobody gets to tell you what that looks like. Okay. Loss of health. I can tell you, I have a lot of autoimmune issues. And when I was first diagnosed, I had to grieve the version of self that once existed that I no longer could fit into. I think loss of self is a big one, like loss of health and self in that space. So I want to really just point that out too. So if you're moving through those things, I see you as well. You're not alone in that. I also think there's a difference between being alone and loneliness. And that's something that we can talk about as well. And it matters. Grief matters. That's why we talk about Kevin. I mean, we laugh all the time. We joke, we cry, laugh. That's a big one. I cry, laugh all the time. Especially with our children. Because, again, we live in a smaller area. It was a very big to-do. He knew everybody, so everybody knew us. It was very publicized. So, seeing my kids now and how open and honest, I'm gonna pat myself on the back. I'm very proud of that. And I'm of me and my husband, who have been really supportive as possible. And we allow our kids to just talk about it. If they want, they don't. And it allows my kids to be there for other children if they have lost a parent. I have seen my daughter and my son step up in times with other children that have suffered a loss of a parent, somebody close to them. And they have been an immense support. And they get it. They get it. So I'm very proud of my babies for that. And I really want to normalize completely. I'm going to just lay this out. We don't talk about this enough. Grief looks different on everyone. Okay. You don't know what their internal struggle is. I don't think I spoke straight for a few weeks. I got up. If I showered, that was another win. I didn't really eat much. I can tell you that. I lost a lot of weight very quickly. Each week got less of a blur. Each week I was able to move a little bit more in all aspects. So there's no universal roadmap. It's how you see it to be. And support looks different for everybody. I can tell you I did experience, I'm going to be very real about this. There were times after he passed where I felt like death was contagious, where I felt there were a handful of people that kind of thought I had leprosy and didn't want to be around me, because I think for a couple of reasons. I think we don't talk about this enough and how normal this is, really, how everybody's going to experience loss, and that they didn't know how to approach that or how to be supportive or what to say. Or they were dealing with thinking about their own mortality, or their death of their spouse. And especially for those in law enforcement, what that sudden death could look like and what that means for their family, as me and my kids were moving through that. So, that's just very real. And I'm not judging anybody. I'm not mad at one single person. I was at one point, but we are far out from that now, and I can see things differently. And I will assure you, your perspective as time moves on through the years does shift. I'm able to reflect now back on that to say these things to you because I'm in a position to do that now. So there is no pressure there. Again, if you are very fresh in this, or even if you're far out from where I am and you still are struggling here, there's no pressure, no judgment. I think that was the biggest thing is I showed myself a lot of self-love and compassion, and I stopped judging myself and other people, because it's just didn't help. It didn't help. It added fuel to the fire in regards to that heaviness, that weight that was on my shoulders. Kind of moving on to the next part of this I'd like to touch on is the myth of the 5 stages of grief. Now, again, I'm not knocking these 5 stages of grief. Please don't take it like that. I'm just going off my own personal experience and my professional experience in this. Again, as a bedside nurse, you can imagine the amounts of hands I have held while moving on to God, to heaven, whatever you want to call it, to returning home to self, to soul. It's kind of how I view it, right? Because, this is just the physical part. I can't stress that enough. I did speak about in a prior episode about intuition, which is kind of why I'm glad we're kind of stepping into this, because for me, I see things a little differently. And again, I'm in a position now where I can see things differently. So zero pressure, fam. Zero pressure here. Nada, zilch, zero, nothing, no pressure. Okay. I don't want this to feel forced for you in any way, shape, or form. But we all heard of these 5 stages of grief, right? Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. I'm here to tell you they are a roller coaster ride, just as life, right? Especially with grief. There's not one uniform of this, or that fits. There were days where I couldn't even talk to him. I was so freaking angry, like so mad at him. Like, how dare he? Who is he? Like, how dare you left me and the kids? And then there were days I felt incredibly guilty for even thinking that. And then when I entered into my amazing relationship with my now husband, the guilt I felt for being happy again, for being in love again, and really being in love and what that looks like. So again, just scratching the surface here. There's so much to it, but I want to put a spotlight or highlight those vulnerable parts of me and be real, like real talk, right? Because this is what Coffee, Kids, and Clarity is about. It's about real stuff, real human experience, real life, real emotions. I can't stress that enough. Okay. I want this to be a spot where it's comfortable for you to turn the vulnerability up if needed, so you can move that. So again, you're not feeling so lonely here. Okay. And sometimes when you do get a chance to reframe, if you can, go for it. It's not linear. You don't graduate from like one stage to the next. It's not that kind of process, if you will. By the way, acceptance of where you're at does not mean you forgot that person or that loss. I cannot stress that enough. We have never forgot Kevin. It's kind of hard to, by the way, because our son is cut right out of his behind. He looks identical to him. So, and my daughter is like our daughter is a spitting image of his sarcasm. That's why it's like, especially when you have children with that person, it's pretty fascinating to me, because it just, again, lends to me knowing he's not here. He's just not here physically, right? And how I look at it through a soulful lens is that your soul, right? His soul, it's not like he's just with me all the time, right? How I look at it, or how I've been shown intuitively, is that, he can light 50 candles at once and be in all of those 50 places. So you better, and if you knew anything about Kevin, you better believe he is. He's in all of those places, right? He's with me. He's with my husband. He's with the kids. He's with his mother. He's with his aunts. He's with his friends, his fellow officers, friends he grew up with, his best friend, and his kids who he loved dearly. So I don't want this, again, to feel boxed in, because, especially through that soul lens. And when you feel comfortable, this part may not resonate with you right now, but I can assure you at some point it will, when you're ready for it. I'm going to keep repeating that. No pressure when you're ready for it. Not when I'm ready for it, or anybody else around you, right? When you're ready for it, whatever it looks like. Okay. And you're not doing grief wrong. You're not failing at grief, by the way. It's not a course. This isn't a college, course that we're trying to check off the list, the box thing. This is the one thing that fluidity matters, because otherwise it gets stuck and it builds up to a place where you want to explode. And that's not good for you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, because, again, we're human. So that can lead to things like stress. And I don't want to see you in the hospital bed because you didn't have a space to release it. Okay. I don't want to see you there because that's very real. That's very real. I've taken care of a lot of patients, and as a nurse who had lost their spouse or a child, and they just declined physically. And I really just want to hold you in that moment. And I want to tell you that if that's what your body needs to go through, just please get that support and reach out and get the help. Don't do that part alone, because that part can be really scary and it's not needed. You can absolutely reach out. Even if I'm the only person you have to reach out to, okay, tag me. I'll be that person because I get it. And I'll do my best. That's all I can offer, right? It just means you're human, right? It just means you're human. Like, again, there's no hierarchy of humans here. Grief doesn't discriminate. It's for all beings. Yeah. And if you haven't moved for that, or you're very close to somebody who is, like, it's a good episode for you to watch too, because then maybe you can lend that to them and how you can support them a little differently, or maybe see it through their eyes, through their perspective. Maybe you can put yourself in their shoes a little bit more. So I hope that helps people, supporting people moving through that. Because sometimes there's nothing you can say. Sometimes I just need people just to sit there while I cried, or screamed, or punched something, or laughed about memories of him, or whatever that looked like. Sometimes people just need you to hold that space. It's just that simple. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. Yeah. So whatever makes you feel good in that moment, whatever stage, if you will, you're in, ride that wave. It's going to take you to the next wave. And I don't know what that wave's going to be. That's going to be up to your body to decide in that moment. But just know you're not alone there, that there is support. Okay. Next part, if you will. I know there are different, like I kind of just spoke upon, it's like acute, complicated, and integrated grief. And early grief is what I would say acute grief, right? It's just when it's fresh. It's so fresh. And again, there's no timestamp there. It took me weeks to really, if I had to leave the house, I was probably escorted by somebody. The funeral, just that took so much out of me and my children. I know for my kids, like getting back to normalcy, like school and routine was good for them, and getting them, when they were ready, especially my oldest, into some trauma therapy. That was the best route for us. It's shock, it's brain fog. Again, you just wake up and that's cool. Like, if that's all you can do, that's all you can do. Probably shouldn't, be walking around your house stark naked. You might want to get dressed and put some clothes on. So do that for yourself. Please try to drink some water. I was crying. I just remember at one point I was crying so much and my throat sounded like this. And I realized I hadn't drank water in like 24 hours. And I was like, I should probably do that. So, if you have support around you, around people that can do that for you, perfect. If not, again, I'm right here. Click this episode, watch it as many times as you need to. If I have to be your reminder, I'm cool with it. There is physical symptoms like we spoke about. That's very consuming. And there are days where your grief will all consume you. But I can promise you the next day will come, and I don't know what that's going to look like, but you're going to wake up again and it'll be there, and you have to partner with it. At some point there comes a juncture where you will pause and you will understand that it's not going to go away. And then you'll figure out a rhythm, and you'll figure out a ways to the means to see what this looks like for you. So managing your grief, again, is going to look different. I get that. I get asked that question a lot. So how do I manage it? Again, the answer is going to surprise you. It's going to be like, congratulations, you got up. Just start there, right? Congratulations, you took a shower. Congratulations, you had a conversation without bawling your eyes out today. Congratulations, you snuck in a smile because you thought of your person. Yeah, it's a good one. Stop fighting it. Like, I'm not fighting this right now. I'm going to let it go. I just don't see the point in fighting it. It's already hard enough at times. So if I got to take the deep breath and just casually, sit with it for a second and let the tears roll, okay, I'm going to let them roll. I'm going to let them go. I'm not going to fight it. It's something, you learn how to carry over time to manage. And I mean this with so much love in my heart when I say these things to you guys, right? This whole episode is so full of intentional love. I can't stress it enough. And just so much gratefulness I get to be here with you. I think too, for me, that's when I really understood being grateful. I understood it. I said I had a really good, I feel like I knew gratefulness pretty well. And I think because of my career, I understood that. But when Kevin passed, there was a component to my gratefulness that I got to be here every day with my kids, right? That's when that really grew for me, because once you move through something like this, nothing else really matters. Like, what else can hurt me at this point, So there's this beautiful resilience and grit that you grow through this process. And then you get to be somebody for somebody else that's moving through this. Like, I get to be this for you right now. I'm so, so amazingly grateful for that, right? I'm so grateful that if I get to do this for you and you get from this something, I can't stress that enough, how much that means to me. So thank you. Permission, compassion, self-love. I said that from jump in this episode. I'm going to need you to give yourself the grace as you would your child or people you loved or the person you lost. I really want you to do that for me, okay, fam? If you can do that for me, that's one more thing you did other than getting up and possibly taking a shower and putting clean clothes on, okay? Is that even if it comes in seconds, even if it's a glimpse of self-love and compassion and showing yourself grace. For me, that looked like I wasn't eating very much. So I think I ate gluten-free. I'm gluten-free, by the way. I think I ate gluten-free pizzas. That's all I wanted to eat, every day for 2 months. I can't even make that up. That's all I remember eating. That's all I wanted to eat. So that's what I ate. I didn't judge myself for it. I just was like, you know what? It's something. And I'll deal with the next season of this next version of grief, whatever this looks like. Yeah. So don't fight it. Acknowledge it, breathe with it, move through it, partner with it. And grief absolutely softens when it's met with compassion and not pressure. Okay? There's no right way here. Reach out as you need it. Whatever that looks like for you, however you want to honor that person, so be it. And if you need help there, reach out. That's why I'm here. Okay? Especially during the holidays. That's another episode I'm sure we're probably going to need to do more on this. If you guys want more on this, feel free to reach out for that. Yeah, I'm going to end it there. I think that's good. Teaser for next episode. Okay, I know this is a little heavy. But we're going to go from this and we're going to go to our next episode, which I'm going to be talking for my ladies, men too. We're going to talk about all things perimenopause, menopause, and knowing that you're not crazy. Okay, ladies? Education around it, what it is, what it looks like, and normalizing these conversations just like we're normalizing these conversations about grief. Okay? All right. Listen, if you take anything from today, let it be this. Grief is love with nowhere to go. And that love still matters. Okay? And you matter. All of you. You all matter, right? So breathe when you can. And remember that waking up counts, okay? And until next time, my friends, you are held, you are seen, and you are loved.